Here we go. Here are the games. West Virginia got bloodied this past weekend. They play on a Friday night in Provo. I see no chance here. BYU rolls.
Yeah, I think BYU, again, is a story of a team that has a very, very good defense and a really solid special teams and an offense that is still kind of figuring some things out with their young quarterback. But they survived a scare in Boulder. They've won a couple of road games in a row now, and 1-0 in the Big 12, obviously, with also the win over Stanford under their belts. They've I think gone about their business and just kind of handled things as you would expect a Kalani Sitake team to do. And I don't think anything different rolling into this one at home on a Friday night, late kickoff time, a reeling West Virginia squad. I think that BYU maybe gets tested a little bit next week on the road against Arizona. They will for sure get tested following that game because that's when that murderer's row of Utah, Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU, even Cincinnati. Hell, that's a road game. Those are 5 games in a row. But I think they'll handle business against West Virginia, no doubt.
I think that they'll roll along pretty well here. West Virginia's not going to really be able to stop their run game all that much. So Bear Bachmeier probably does not have to do a whole lot through the air.
I mean, I think if West Virginia could do something, they could play a little bit of defense, but I worry more about how they're going to score points. I just don't see a scenario, kind of like we'll talk about, I think, with Houston and Texas Tech, where I just find that the points are going to be hard to come by, and they don't really know who the quarterback is, whereas BYU does. It's the young bear there. So, yeah, this is probably the easiest pick of the weekend, honestly, guys, is BYU against West Virginia.
All right. Now, games on Saturday, the game at McLean Stadium, 2 11 o'clock kicks, including K-State, Baylor. Both won last week. Both need to kind of learn how to win 2 in a row. And this game kicks off at McLean Stadium.
So let's flip a coin, basically, is how I feel about this one. I'll take Baylor at home, although I don't think home field matters greatly, quite honestly, with what we've seen recently. But I do think it's better than being on the road. I just don't know how much of a real advantage it gives you in winning the game necessarily. But hopefully it does come into play, and it's something that works out for Baylor's sake in their favor. But, yeah, that's kind of the tipping point for me is I think Sawyer Robertson's been a better quarterback than Avery Johnson this year. I think Baylor can score some points on this defense. And I think K-State, if they choose to, will be able to run the football with a healthy Dylan Edwards and however they want to deploy Avery Johnson. So I think this will be a really competitive game, but I just lean slightly to the Bears in Waco.
I'll take Kansas State. I think that, I don't know. They can run the ball, and Baylor can't stop the run unless they,
they can't stop either.
Yeah, they can't stop the run.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the Kansas State passing game as much as I would be about the running game with Dylan Edwards back now and looking different.
That applies to K-State's defense too, right?
Yeah,
their defense isn't very good either.
Yeah,
which is really something we're not used to. They're always pretty fundamentally tough.
It's their secondary. So what do you think Sawyer Robertson is going to do with those guys? So I think it's kind of both teams are just sort of middle of the road, but I just, me personally, if I have to pick a winner, I'm going to pick Baylor, but I would not be surprised at all to see Kansas State rolling and win this game.
Yeah.
By the way, from the chat, Ty Mintier, K-State, baby, you said they had their running back, and they do, right, with Dylan Edwards? All right, so next game.
He was back last week, and he was really, really good and opened things up for them.
I'm taking Baylor. I honestly, Craig's right. If you gave me a quarter, I flipped it a nickel or a penny, I would go with whoever the coin said. But I'll take Baylor at home, although it's not like they've done well this year or in the last, 2 to 3 or 4 years at home. They're really good on the road compared 10-8. But when it comes to teams – Power 4 or Big 12 teams.
Yeah, I don't want to bog down. I think the home thing's a little bit getting overrated because it's recency bias. I mean, it has been a little while since they beat a named team. That won't change with K-State, though. K-State's not ranked right now, so it's not as though it's like Auburn with the SEC mystique rolling into town or Arizona State with a Big 12 title and a top 25 ranking. This isn't quite that, but yeah, they've left a lot to be desired at home. So I think we've spoken enough about that one. That's a coin flip, if anything.
This game here, I changed my pick midweek when we heard about Williams, the cornerback, and the line changed in Vegas and Iowa State, Cincinnati in Cincinnati, and I am going to go with Brendan Sorsby, Scott Satterfield and company to win this game at home?
I'll stick with Iowa State, but I did not take into account when I talked about this the other day. I did take into account the corners. I do think that's super problematic against a really talented Cincy offense, a great quarterback in Sorsby. He's got more weapons, I think, than I gave credit for at the beginning of the season, but I've warmed up to the fact that he does have some good options around him, and they haven't all been healthy also at the same time for the Bearcats. Corleone's been out, too, on the other side, so I think they've managed all that really well. But I did not take into account the kicking part of things. Even though I'd read about Conrarty and read about the backup also being out, that could very well come into play with an Iowa State team that does play a lot of close games. So that does give me some pause. I feel like I've been with Iowa State since like day one, though, so I'm going to keep riding with them. But those two areas give me a lot of concern, and it makes the line make a lot more sense when you take that into account.
Yeah, and that all makes me nervous too, Craig, to echo what you just said. But Cincinnati on defense, I'm not a believer in them to be able to stop Iowa State consistently, and hopefully to make my pick right, they don't need to kick all that much.
Yep, there you go. No, that's absolutely. All right, Oklahoma State and Arizona. Man, Arizona blew a tire last week. Oklahoma State, who knows? They threw the kitchen sink, and it still wasn't enough. Fired the defensive coordinator, other changes, transfer portal, games in Arizona. I don't see, again, they play the games for a reason, but I'm taking the Wildcats to win this one.
It's a 20.5-point favorite for a reason.
Yeah,
so,
not much of a limb to go out on. They're 3 touchdown favorites, and Oklahoma State's reeling, although swinging back in the direction of positivity a little bit because of just the exciting things to come for them. But for right now, it's still the same team we've watched get beat up pretty good by pretty much everybody they faced at this point. So I think Arizona's a good middle of the conference team right now. Certainly better than Oklahoma State at home. Yeah, I think this is a pretty easy call. Arizona wins this game, and it would be a disaster for Brent Brennan if they didn't win this game.
I can add nothing to that, Arizona.
Okay. All right. So we won't. Texas Tech and Houston, kind of intriguing. I still think Texas Tech has just too much, especially since defense travels. And how often have we ever said that about them? And it did against Utah. And I think it will against Houston. I think this will be a fun game to watch into the night on Saturday, but I'll still take Joey and the Red Raiders.
You know, there's like always the Mean Girls, like stop trying to make fetch happen. I feel like stop trying to make this upset happen. I'm not a believer in it. I think there's other games around the country where I see where you're going with that, and I understand where it's coming from with Houston. I think especially for Texas Tech, now we're just going to be looking every week of like, can this be the upset? Can this be the upset? Something to derail them. I don't think this is going to be the upset. I don't know how Houston scores enough points here. I think Tech's defense matches what Houston's defense can do, so you negate each other. If anything, Houston against even average defenses, much less a $50 million deal, you know, and I'm exaggerating, but $1 million defense on the line alone. I don't know how their O-line is going to hold up to that. And Wegman's not such a great passer that he's just going to be able to get around all of that. So, I just don't know where the points come from. Like, even if Houston holds them down, I just think Tech's got too many weapons, that too much explosive possibilities that they're going to break a play or two. And I don't think Houston can match explosives with Texas Tech.
Yeah, I think that Tech will cover this spread. I don't know. It's not going to be easy because Houston's much improved and they're good on defense. But I just think Tech's. I mean, they're playing such good football right now, and they've had the week off to get healthy. And hopefully that means that Baron Morton doesn't have any lingering concerns. But I think that the more Will Hammond plays, the more we've seen that he's getting better. So I think they can win with either guy.
No, I don't think there's any question. The question is that if they're struggling or there's kind of hitting and missing, but the offense isn't producing, what do you do when it comes to the quarterback play? If that's the reason, not sure that will be the reason.
I think Houston would have to get like a pick six early off of Morton, and then maybe like a kick return touchdown or something, and kind of put them to where they're having to press. And then you lean on your defense and on your running game with Wegman and Connors, and I think that's a path to victory. I just don't think it's likely that you bank on, big game-changing types of scores. You can't predict that type of thing, but that's how it would need to happen, in my opinion, to happen, and I'm just not banking on that.
That game started. I'm doing a lot of this, but I'm not gambling, but I probably need to. 6.5-point pick now, 11.5. It's gone up big. for Texas Tech. Now, Colorado at TCU. Colorado, 14-3 against BYU, and then they lose. TCU not sharp enough to win the game at Arizona State. And a lot of these games seem to be, there's 3 or 4 that are dicey, but I take TCU to win. I think they're going to put up a ton of points too.
I think TCU wins this game. I think they'll bounce back nicely from their second half a week ago. I think Hoover will kind of be able to do what he wants. It was like watching yakety sacks last week, watching Colorado's defense trying to tackle in some cases or just busted coverages and whatnot. So I think TCU will be fine there. I don't think they'll have to run the football the way they probably needed to be able to do a lot more last week. So, yeah, not thinking too much on this one. The Colorado offense is just kind of all over the place, and there's been some good things to take away from Caden Salter, but there was also a lot of bad, like the way the game ended, for example. So, give me TCU to bounce back at home.
Yeah, I think TCU wins 13.5. They probably cover. Colorado they don't have the bodies right now. They just don't have the guys, the Jimmys and the Joes that they had, and they've got to do a lot of adjusting, and not going to see a lot of good old run game in this one.
No, probably not.
Yeah, so this game kicks off at 6:30 Central Time. If you would like to watch the whole thing, I hope you can stay up for 4 hours. It will be a 4 hour.
That Colorado game last week that got the BYU got a lot of viewers. Well, heck, they're a mountain time, and so it's not a big deal. It's an extra hour. We're on the East Coast. You can see where that game shuts down. Last game, KU and UCF. Man, I tell you what, UCF didn't play well last week. Kansas did, but they couldn't hold on to it. I'm taking KU on the road. Again, I know the bounce house can get a lot up and down and crazy, but I'm going to take KU and Jalen Daniels.
Clear quarterback advantage for Kansas. There already was before if everybody was at full health, but especially when you've got a pair of quarterbacks dealing with AC issues like you do in Orlando right now. That's even more of a one-sided matchup. I think KU will be pissed off after losing last week, which was a loss, but it was a close loss. It was an interception away, as has been well documented all week long. I mean, they were there with a chance to beat Cincinnati, and all this Cincinnati rah-rah stuff we've been hearing this week would not even exist if Kansas makes one play. So I think they're still a good football team. I think UCF's still very much trying to figure things out under Scott Frost. They've had some good positive moments, but I think Kansas is just a better football team right now. So give me KU at the bounce house. And it seems kind of humdrum that we're going all favorites, but you should see the lines this week for a conference that's supposed to be parity. Mm-hmm. These matchups aren't really the parity matchups. These are very much like this team clearly looks better than this team almost across the board, with the exception being like Baylor, Kansas State, basically, where it's kind of two of the same looking in the mirror. But a lot of the rest of these are, double digits. Iowa State, Cincinnati is not. That's the closest one. But, this one to me
this one's the second closest, right? Yeah, because it's 5.5.
Yeah.
But I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about I had much more trouble trying to figure out K-State Baylor than this game.